You're listening to the Guitar Heroes podcast.
Welcome to the Guitar Heroes podcast.
We definitely didn't just spend about half an hour trying to suss out technical difficulties, did we?
Oh, no, not at all. It's just so easy, this.
So, just when we got started, we've had to change things a little bit. Coming to you today in a slightly different format. We're doing it from our individual homes.
I just want to ask one question to everybody. Okay, how many people don't have trousers on now?
Well, Chris rarely has trousers on.
I actually do have trousers on today. Anyone else?
I just put a shirt on to look respectable for this.
Well, that's the thing, though, because we're seeing this on Zoom. I mean, people that are just listening to this won't know, but we look at it on Zoom, and all I can see are your top halves. I'd say I don't know. You could be telling me lies.
So for those listening, to give them a bit of context as to our setups here, you've got a Strat there, I think, Lee, haven't you? You're a
Yep, I'm at home with my Strat.
white Strat as well.
My white one, as per the last episode.
Got my gold Les Paul.
And Phil's got his white one.
I've got number one.
I almost feel like I need to grab my Strat.
Nah,
Well, see,
you're
I
good.
did this on the last podcast, didn't I? I was
did.
like, oh, you've got Strats, I need to grab my Strat. And yeah. Oh, well.
So we're recording this and just blindly hoping that everything is going to work. As I said, we're all in 3 individual locations, obviously because we are now under the UK lockdown restrictions. Today is the 5th of November. Remember, the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason and plot. So yeah, just when we got things up and running and we got episode 1 done, we've now been forced back into our homes. So we're coming to you today via the magic of Zoom, and we're all going to try and sync this up later and just hope for the best. So we'll see how this goes. But we should say thank you to everyone that has listened to episode 1, and we hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed making it, and we're moving forward with episode 2, and we'll see what happens as we move through the next 4 weeks of lockdown and whatnot. So, yes, bit different, but the show must go on, as they say.
Indeed. And should we maybe talk about a little bit what we've done this week? Maybe since the last podcast came out. But me and Lee have actually we've done a show, haven't we, Lee? It's very exciting.
We have.
Very exciting.
Just to really rub salt in the wound, we managed to get at least
we managed to get 2 days in,
Yeah.
2 days of gigging, and that was that. Yeah, but no, we worked at Weymouth Pavilion, our local theatre. We are quite close to the theatre managers there. I've known them for a long time, and they've done everything within their power to keep the theatre open. And right when obviously they haven't been putting shows on in the big room, but they've been in coffee and cakes and everything they can to try getting people through the door with the restrictions. And Phil from Weymouth Pavilion said, "Do you want to do an intimate evening, which is basically up in the piano bar, and quite a laid back thing. There's probably maximum 40 people in there per night." And they said, "Do you want to come and do it?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't think I'd want to do it on my own because I don't think it would give a true representation of the show, just a guitar vocal type thing." So I asked Lee to do it with me, and it was great, wasn't it? There was we sold out both nights, so there was about 80 people in over the 2 nights. And it was really good. There was just me, Lee, 2 microphones and 2 guitars, and it was great fun, wasn't it?
I saw more guitars in the photo, more than 2, right?
Well, we could only play two at once, like one each. But yeah, I think we took about 7 or 8 guitars with us, just because why not? It's a guitar show
Because
still.
you can.
We did,
So,
yeah.
what sort of songs did you guys play? Was there a good selection of songs from the show?
Yeah, I think there was. We started in the 1950s, so we did stuff like Chuck Berry and that'll be the day, Buddy Holly, and we did a couple of different songs that we don't do in the show. We did Take It Easy, the Eagles, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, love that one. And,
Love that tune.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
in fact we agreed it's probably one of our favourite Eagles songs. That one, isn't it?
That
Iconic
the opening
song.
lick and that song as it kicks into the song, there's like a nod, like an extra couple of beats, aren't there? And then it does that
Yeah.
I just love that. It's such a simple lick. But
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's
They
amazing.
make it like it's
just...
like the bar's like a few beats longer, isn't it? It's really cool. But,
Yes, yeah.
but we had some fun, didn't we?
Yeah.
Bringing that up to scratch with the small rehearsals that we got in, which was good fun. But yes, it was really nice to do a gig and just do some music again and see some smiling faces and have a night out just like the old days, the days
I was
of
quite
yore.
worried. Yeah. I was quite worried because I was thinking when the show goes back out again, obviously it's going to be a completely different world when we start touring again. But I was a little bit worried, are people going to want to come out? Are they going to be too scared to? And it's actually filled me with confidence that, after speaking to a lot of the audience over the weekend, they were all saying we were desperate to come and watch something. And in fact, not on our show, but Ben Waters, who's a local boogie-woogie pianist who's really good, he did a couple of weeks before us. And I think somebody drove down from Reading to watch him because they said, "Oh, are you a big fan of Ben Waters?" They said, "No, it's just the closest we could find with live music." so people are desperate to get out. Yeah.
No, there was definitely that sense of just people craving it and people so glad to just be out and just get to be involved in anything that just felt like normality. And as you said, we did the 2 nights, which was fantastic. But on the second night, we watched the announcement of the lockdown literally half an hour before we go on stage. Boris is on TV, saying, "You must stay at home," and whatever he said.
Stay at home, don't stay at home.
Don't stay at home, stay at home, protect the NHS, don't protect the NHS, and all that stuff. And yeah, and then we went on stage. So the second night had this slight tinge of like the last hurrah, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Everyone out.
yeah.
For a good time, but it was like, see you in a month, maybe.
Yeah. Hopefully, see you in a month. Yeah. And I know we've, from the show's point of view, it's been a frantic week, to be honest.
Really,
we're getting dates moved again. It's absolutely hectic. I'm glad to do this podcast for an hour because it gets me out of the office.
Yeah,
which is lovely.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange.
Proverbials hit the fan again.
It has. Hence why we are not sat in the comfort of your living room looking at Cookie and dunking biscuits in our coffee. We are all in our own homes today. So,
did you steal my biscuits? I didn't offer you any.
Oh, should I have not said that?
Damn.
I thought they were complimentary.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think I had like 6 rich teas.
Oh, my goodness. That's my rations for next week.
So anyway, so Chris, what have you been up to? Come on. I was listening back. I should just say, actually, I was listening back to, obviously, the last podcast, episode 1. If you haven't heard that, people, go check it out. Spotify, Apple, have a listen. But when I was piecing that together and getting it uploaded, which was another learning curve. This is all about learning curves. The whole process of getting this going and learning Zoom and then getting it online and stuff has been a bumpy ride, but we're getting there. But anyway, my point is...
Can I just say something really quickly? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if anybody heard a funny noise, then it was the doorbell that just rang. And
oh, right. I was wondering whether... I thought it was my computer.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. But it was an important one. Even I've interrupted because it's the Eddie Van Halen guitar has been delivered.
Really?
I can't say anymore.
You sure it's not a takeaway?
Well, it's 11, so I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's not.
Start as we mean to go on. Day 1 of lockdown. Phil's having a curry at midday.
The Papa John's pizza's arrived. I'm off. See you guys.
Where was I? What were we saying? What were we saying? Oh yeah, Chris.
You wanted to point something out.
My point was going to be that I felt like I need to give Chris more time to say what he wants to say. He's the new kid on the block, as we said last time, and my other half was saying, bloody hell, it's just you and Phil nattering on all the time. Let Chris get a word in. And what have we just done? I started to say that, and then we just cracked on and started talking. So anyway, Chris, what have you been up to this week?
Well,
anyway, did you hear about the... Oh, sorry.
Chris, put your trousers on.
Yeah.
All right, give us a sec. The second night you guys were out, the other half of the show was actually out doing a gig. Myself and Al. Al called me up at like it might have been 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something. It was like an impromptu gig. I can't think of the it's a holiday park in Weymouth, Chesil Vista, I think. So yeah, just an impromptu gig there, Halloween gig. So yeah, we went there and bashed out a few songs. It was quite a bit of fun. Had some fun with some pumpkins. They literally had rotting pumpkins all over the stage. God, the smell was horrific. And yeah, I was putting the desk on one of the tables, and the table had a pumpkin on it. Literally, the table collapsed. The pumpkin splattered everywhere.
Nice.
And Al almost fell arse over tit, like slipping on pumpkin juice. And it was quite a fun gig. But other than that, done some remote sessions, recording at home.
Nice.
A little bit of teaching, and that's it really. It's very limited at the moment. No, not really much going on. But
so strange that we all found ourselves out doing a gig, first gig for months and months, and we managed to get at least one or two in, and then here we are.
I think Phil's dying. I think.
Phil, you okay there?
No. Oh dear, I'm having a moment here. Hang on. Not that we're. Oh, I was going to say not that we're endorsed or sponsored, but we actually are by Vocal Zone. I'm just about to have one. I think it's the coffee. Coffee's drying my throat out. Just
Are you sure it's not the Tia Marina that's in there?
Yeah,
I think that's why this podcast is a little more tame for me. I just got a standard coffee.
Have you?
Same without Tia Maria. It's a bit boring.
Come on, Chris. Now we're locked down. You need to pop something stronger in that. You need to get some whiskey.
It's not like I could drive anywhere anyway.
No.
I've got to drive somewhere this afternoon.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got to go to the vets. Sort my cough out.
I was going to say, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. No, it's the dog and the cat this time. So yeah, essential.
And the cat.
Yeah. She's got a little spot on her eye, so we need to get that checked out.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about my animals on a guitar podcast. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going well, isn't it? It's going well. So, what was our topic of talk for today? If you have listened to episode 1, hopefully you remember that we were sort of thinking about having a plan for every episode, and as you can see, that's really playing out nicely at the moment.
Well, to be honest, I think. Well, what with everything that's happened, you know, it was a rush getting gigs in, and obviously things have been really busy for me, and you know, and Jay moving shows again and what have you. And then the announcement on Saturday, it's kind of thrown you a little bit, and it's, you know, I mean, I guess there's a lot of people out there that was hoping that everything would get more normal-ish, and then all of a sudden it just stops. You know, I mean, lots of things are going to be closed again, and you know, everybody's sick of this topic of conversation, aren't they? But I mean, it does affect musicians massively. Does this?
It does,
absolutely massively.
No, you're right. I felt like things were moving forward, and what we've been able to do those couple of gigs, it felt like, oh, okay, well, maybe next year things will be getting back to normal relatively quickly. But then this happens, and it's not so much this itself, but it's how long this then drags on, and how slowly we come back out of this, and the knock-on effects of that then taper into weeks and months after it. And most importantly, Christmas. I love Christmas. I don't want to, you know, I say we register, Bill, let's register your studio there as a place of work. Pay us all a penny so that we're officially employees on the books.
That's all I pay you anyway. What are you on about?
Well, there you go. And then we need to have a big staff meeting, I think, to discuss very, very important projections for next year.
Well, you know, all joking aside, you know, I mean, this is business, and there are dates in the diary for January. So, you know, where do you draw the line on business? I mean, the economy's got to start somewhere, hasn't it? Again, you know, it's got to be boosted somehow. And if meetings are important, I mean, my life is spent with meetings these days. I used to be a guitar player, you know. I used to think, oh, great. Well, what have I got to do today? Oh, I might pack my bag and go to a gig, you know. But it's not like that for me anymore. It's all, I won't bore everybody with it, but it's, you know, the guitar playing's become a very small part of what I do for this show now.
But I think as soon as you turn music into a career. I think you suddenly, that business side filters in a lot more as the years progress on, I think. And you're always thinking more about numbers, so much playing a lot of the time. And obviously running a show as well, like definitely I can see it makes you kind of put your guitar down for long periods of at a time.
Well, yeah, I mean,
more sat at the computer, you know, and
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people rely on this show working, you know, for their living. There's probably, I don't know, 15 people or rely on as part of their living on this show, you know. So the minute we take our foot off the gas, then, you know, we're affecting people's lives, and we can't do that. It's, you know, it's really quite important to keep it going. It's never thought I'd be in that position, but hey ho.
I think that ties into what we were sort of discussing in episode 1 when we were talking about that line between a job and a hobby, or a passion, a calling, whatever you want to say. And I think there does come a point where whatever you do, if you're a professional guitar player in any sense, or professional musician, or certainly for you, Phil, with the, you know, all the dealings of the show, you're gonna have to do those other bits. And it seems to be the musicians generally that are successful are the ones that can do that other stuff as well. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure we've all met fantastic musicians who could, you know, play their instrument, or fantastic singers, whatever they might be, but that other side of it is a struggle. And I think that's probably quite common, because it's a very obviously creative industry, and those people that naturally have a flair for music don't naturally have a flair for, let's just call it, organization, or that kind of side of it. I think that's a real tough part of our industry, towing that line between being able to do the two, being able to hop on stage. And Phil, you're probably the best example of that, because you do have all the stresses of the show more than we do. So on a show day, you're having to deal with all of that right up until 7:30 or whatever it is, and then the minute it flips to showtime, we then have to hop on stage and be performers, and not let any of that carry over to your performance. And that's the same that can be the same for whether you're in a pub, whether it's a wedding band, whatever. There's always going to be all that work that has to happen behind the scenes just to make those 2 hours on stage, or that hour on stage, whatever it is, possible. And being able to do the two is probably ultimately what leads you to be able to maintain it and have any kind of success.
I was watching a little bit. I'm a big fan of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I was watching a bit of YouTube the other day, and they're obviously they're not going to be doing much this year, like everybody. No. But I think it was a couple of years ago. They were it was a behind the scenes look, and they have 40 articulated lorries, 500 crew. There's something like 25 or 30 people on stage, and it's incredible. I think he said they had something like 200 pyros going off throughout the night. Wow! And it's an incredible show, and and they keep the tickets less than $100. Yeah. Which you think that's amazing. What you're going to go see, for less than $100, which I don't know. This is what I say. This is a bit of this is not a rant. This is not my rant for the day.
Oh, go on, Phil. Go on, Phil.
I'm going to add a new section.
Actually, we should just jump in and say there that I said at the start of this that we've had half an hour of technical difficulties to get this going, but actually we've had a little bit more than that, because this is the second time we've attempted to make episode 2, isn't it? So we actually did meet up when we were able to, and tried to record episode 2 last week. And we ran into some real technical difficulties because we were recording in a different place. No, but I do remember on that day, before we tried to sit down and record, you said, "Oh, fellas, I've got a rant for today, and I'm going to save it." So maybe you can give us some ranting today.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you. I'll give you 2 small rants. How's that? And that'll make up for the big Phil's rant.
Strap in, Chris. Strap in. Here we go.
It's going to be emotional. Here we go. So, going back to ticket prices, okay, that you get someone like Trans-Siberian Orchestra that try to keep the ticket prices low because they want to sell out arenas, and then And don't get me wrong, I'm a massive Joe Bonamassa fan. I think he's fantastic. But when he came over here, like up to places like Plymouth, he was charging £150 a ticket to just watch a dude on stage playing guitar. And you look at, who's got like one Luton van with gear in it. And then you get like Trans-Siberian Orchestra that's got like 40 Arctics. You think, But that's just a slight rant anyway. I just think it's really cool that the TSO, as they call them, are keeping it, within the reach of
they keep it affordable and they give incredible value for money.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And I went and saw Snarky Puppy not too long ago. The ticket price was like maybe £18, and
I think there's
incredible show.
more than 18 of them in that band, isn't there?
Yeah, and that was a support act as well. Just every musician on stage was of the highest caliber. 18 quid a ticket. It's like you would go every month, wouldn't you, at that sort of price to go and see them?
Yeah. Well, again, it's the same old thing with. I mean, like as for example, I think we probably start at around £24 a ticket. And we've got 2 large vehicles that go out on the road. I also know other acts, other shows rather that they're charging the same amount of money. I mean, we take a full lighting rig, we take PA, we've got 30 odd guitars on stage, all that. And there's other people that turn up in a car, with nothing and charge the same sort of price, And I just think, well, in some respects, for me, the ability is not so much as important as the production. Because you go to watch a production, it's okay being an absolutely phenomenal guitar player, but when you get, a massive production going out that is, me personally, I find it far more entertaining. I'd rather go watch Tina Turner than Joe Bonamassa, because I just like to take the whole thing in and the whole production of it. I get bored easy,
But it's about lights and everything, isn't it? I think it all adds to the experience. But when Joe Bonamassa's charging 150, is that dollars or is it sterling?
Pounds? Yeah, £150. Yeah.
Well, it's never really £150. If you're going as a couple, that's 300 quid already. And then you're thinking about accommodation, travel on top of that. Suddenly it becomes, it's like...
It's a holiday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, but, I think price is not necessarily always it's not a guide to quality, and I don't mean that. No. Obviously, you'd never fault the guitar playing at one of those shows or anything like that. But
absolutely not.
I get what you're saying, Phil. I think when you go to, it depends what you're going for. I think certain gigs, for me, I love a small gig. I think if you're there to see a musician and you're there to really just get engrossed in the kind of music of it, some of the gigs that stand out in my mind for that, I've seen. I'm a bit obsessed with Brothers Landreth and Joey Landreth. I've seen him play, I don't know, 2 or 3 times now, and they have been like the tiniest little gigs. When he comes over here, or when they come over here, they played a small little place in Bristol that was just amazing, and then a little pub in Winchester, and it was like, as far as a musical experience went, it was incredible because you could hear the voices acoustically in the room. They were just pulling back off the mic and just singing, and you could literally hear it there in the room. You could hear the strings on the guitars. You were that close to it. That's about as good a musical experience as it's going to get. But if you're talking entertainment and you're talking wow factor, then I think you're right. That Tina Turner gig with pyros and lights. And in my mind, if you're going to a stadium or you go into a big venue, you're going for a show, because let's face it, you're so far away from these people anyway that you're not there to get that kind of an intimate musical experience. You're there to have your socks knocked off and have an amazing experience, which I'm sure we've all had as well. So definitely it's a fair point. Lights, lasers, big stuff, entertainment. It is entertainment at the end of the day. When you get to that level, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. I saw Brad Paisley. I'm a huge Brad Paisley fan. It's probably my favourite guitar player ever, Brad Paisley. I think he's fantastic. And I saw him as Shepherd's Bush Empire years ago, and he was great, but he was a band. He was just a band. There was him and he had his band, and it looked like just a band on stage. And after about 3/4 of an hour, I did get a little bit bored. completely honest. That once the initial, that's Brad Paisley, and my "I love you" sign got ripped up, as marry me, Brad.
What you're saying is once you'd been escorted to the back of the room by security, then you got a little bit bored of everything.
Yeah. Once I found my way back in again, I was like, yeah. But then when you see shows in America and he's got the big video walls and and everything going on and the big runway that comes out into the audience, it's a completely different animal. It's like chalk and cheese, isn't it? And I would pay more to go watch that bigger production than what I would to go see a smaller thing. But
well, maybe it's also a result of those venues being that large. I don't know which came first, chicken or the egg. Did people want to make productions bigger, or did people want to make venues bigger? Because I would see it that if I was putting on a show, I would tailor my show to the venue. So if you're gonna, if you're gonna come and see my show, if I'm gonna do it in a small venue, it is gonna be focused on the music. It's gonna be up close and intimate, and you're there for that reason. But as the venue grows, I think the production has to grow with it to still offer that value for money and deliver something that ultimately is going to be an enjoyable experience. If you go to Wembley and it's just a band that are fairly static and there's not much to look at, it's not gonna you could see that same band in a small venue and the experience would be so much better because you're going to be that much closer. When you scale the venue up, I think everything has to go with it. You need to deliver that kind of experience, and that's where the production side of it comes in.
Definitely.
And costs
I think
go
this
up.
is where the 80s bands are great. Van Halen, for instance, big stadium.
Oh, nice segue there, Chris.
Yeah, well, I thought this would be a good way in. But, you take the music as, obviously the music, tick that box is amazing. Great guitar, great vocals, great drums.
Yeah.
Great lights, sound is awesome. Unfortunately, I weren't around to experience those sort of gigs, but from footage I've seen, they just look incredible. Steve Vai, with David Lee Roth as well, just awesome.
You see, Steve Vai is a prime example of putting on a production. I saw him in Birmingham years ago, and amazing. Oh yeah, has anyone got the Live at the Astoria DVD? It's great. Is that? I'll lend you.
Got all the lasers, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's doing a small venue. I think it's around Christmas time. He's doing this small venue. He's got Virgil Donati on drums and there's Dave Weiner on guitar, Billy Sheehan and Tony McAlpine, and it's really, the squash done there. They look just like a band playing in a pub type thing, but he still comes out in all the costumes, and like Chris just said, he's got the lasers on his fingers and he's throwing his guitar.
LED
he's still
lights on the neck.
he has. He's still the tiny venue, and he still does as much as he can in that venue to for an audience experience.
Yeah,
he comes out wearing I've got the DVD. I think he comes out wearing Prince's face mask or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, something like
they
that.
come out playing Shy Boy. That's the song that he did with David Lee Roth, and it's just chaos as the show starts, and it's just everyone you can't get settled because it's just mental and just hard work and but yeah, he's a prime example. I saw him in Birmingham a few years ago, and obviously had a variety of guitars as we do in the show, and 3-neck guitars. The 3-neck he uses, and just amazing. Songs are really good, but there's always something going on, with lights, and always something. Just as things kind of settle, something changes and keeps your interest peaked. So
I'm going to I'm going to be controversial here because I think this podcast is all about honesty and truth, and I think this is going to open up good discussion. But I've never really been a fan of Steve Vai.
Shut up, Lee.
But I'm also willing to admit, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's partly just because I probably haven't listened to enough. He kind of falls into that category for me, where it's not that I've made my mind up that I don't like his music, but I always seem to have this list. There's in my mind, there's an ever-growing long list of artists that I need to get around to and need to give the time of day, because I know that they're household names, whether in the mainstream or just among guitar players. And very often when I eventually listen to those players, I'm like, Oh, now I get it, and now I see what all the fuss is about. But I
The
don't.
thing
I
is
just
with
feel
Vi,
like there's not enough time in the day. There's always going to be people on that list, and as it shrinks, as I knock people off, there's other people being added to it. When I hear another name, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know much about him. Not, not can't say I'm that into it. And I think Steve Vai for me has always been. He's been on that
Well,
list
I
for a
think
while.
he doesn't always seem to reveal everything he can do as a musician. Obviously, he obviously started up in Frank Zappa's band.
Yeah.
Obviously a graduate of Berkeley as well. And obviously went on to join Whitesnake, Alcatraz. So as well as just a solo guitarist,
Wait,
he's a
he was
great
in
musician.
Whitesnake. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
Did
joined
you not know that?
in 1990. Yeah, in
Yeah.
1990 he joined Whitesnake, and so he's a great guitar player in his own right, but a great musician in a working band.
Right.
So I think
yeah.
he for me ticks all the boxes. He's not like just a solo guitarist with his own career. He's as a solo guitarist, he's really good in band environments, and
Maybe that's what it is then.
really
Maybe
well.
I'm not as familiar with those things because I have to admit I'm not a big fan of. Or I've just never really got into like instrumental. I like guitar playing, like instrumental guitar playing, but I'm not drawn
I've
to
never
like
been a fan of
shreddy instrumental guitars. No.
I only came across from Vi through Whitesnake and David Lee Roth. That's the only way I kind of came across him, and obviously then looked into Passion and Warfare and things. But
there's also, I think, you get people that Chris collects vinyl as well. There are certain albums that I can just listen to over and over again. I don't think I would ever buy a Steve Vai album, but I would watch him. I prefer watching him in concert rather than just because to me, if I don't have the time, but I can't sit down and just listen to an album. And do nothing. Because I don't have the time to do that. But as I'm doing other things, I will put an album on and I'll listen to it. If I'm just hearing constantly, guitar playing, for like an hour, it makes me want to go, I don't know, do something drastic. It's like, I can't stand much more of this. But I could watch Steve Vai all day.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think there's a lot of artists like that. You tend to fall into either the sort of very listenable, very musical guitar player or artist in general, or you have those artists that are obviously clearly more of a performer or a live artist, someone who needs to be appreciated in the live format versus the recorded. But yeah, I think my sort of introduction, well, it probably wasn't an introduction, but where I knew him the most growing up was in Crossroads, the film.
Yeah, great film.
At the end,
of course,
that's just amazing. And
Jack Butler.
Yeah, for me that was amazing because he played both parts, didn't he? He did old Karate Kids bits as well. Well, Ry Cooder did the slide, but I think when he does
all the Paganini classical stuff. Was it the
yeah,
or something like that? I don't even know, but
that was Steve Vai. He did both bits of that conversation.
Yeah, so he's done loads of stuff. He was the guy who did the Bill and Ted
Oh really?
When they do the air guitar thing. That's Steve Vai.
Was it really?
Oh wow,
brilliant.
You're listening to the Guitar Heroes podcast.
So many of my earliest experiences with guitar players came around that age where I wasn't really old enough to buy music. I wasn't going out and buying the records or the CDs of those artists, but I was listening to compilations that my parents might have had, or I go to Woolworths and I pick up like the greatest air guitar tracks, volume 3,
1992.
Exactly, yeah. And I think I had one, and it had Yankee Rose on it, and I remember that, that wow, 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 the beginning, whatever it is, all of that stuff, and it was like, whoa, what is that? That's
I don't
cool.
quite have the guitar to do that. Phil's got in the back there. I can see the.
I've got an Ibanez back there.
The Ibanez.
He's got a gem, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, in general,
how was that to play?
I think
horrible.
I don't know how you guys feel about instrumental electric guitar stuff.
I'm not a big fan. The only reason I like Vi is because of his background working with Whitesnake. I love 80s rock bands, and And for me, that's why I think I enjoy him and watch. Like Phil said, I enjoy watching him live. As I mentioned, I've already seen him live, and I've got the Astoria DVD. Also got the G3 DVD, the 1996 with Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson, yes, I do remember that one. That was cool.
For me, like, that was really good because it made. I think Eric Johnson's presence made Vi play a little different to what he would normally do. There isn't so much of that competition as far as like, oh, this guy's shredding really well, I need to kind of up my game or something. It was like he could sit back and play some bluesy stuff, and it was great.
Here's my point about showmanship again and production. Okay, my favourite G3, I've got 3 DVDs. I've got the one that you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
I've got the one with John Petrucci, and I've also got the one with Yngwie Malmsteen. And I'm sorry, Yngwie blows them all out the water as far as like a showman goes. You get the you know, he's got the, oh no, I must mosh, you know, and he's throwing his guitar everywhere, and the band's as tight as you like, and it's just phenomenal. And it's just, I just want to go, I love you, Yngwie, you know. And then you go watch the John Petrucci, and I may as well like go watch a load of paint dry. It's just so boring. Oh God, it's boring.
I kind of agree. It's a little, just a little stale for me. But watching Yngwie, I completely agree. He's got. I don't know how he gets that sound from a Strat. It's I think he's got his own signature pickups, but it's just insane. It sounds incredible and just flawless playing.
I used to know somebody who went on tour with him. He was a truck driver, and I said, all those Marshalls that he's got, you know, are they all on? He went, oh yeah, they're all on. Yeah,
they're all on.
Yeah.
I think they're 2 examples of people who fall nicely into those categories, because if you listen to Petrucci's work and listen to Dream Theater, obviously it's very technically written. There's lots of music theory kind of ideas in there, and you can see it's the sort of thing that has been constructed with a more thought out kind of process. Whereas Yngwie is that dramatic performer, and
off the cuff sort of.
Yeah. Like... And I don't know, but I think he's incredible. He's a freak of nature, and every now and again you just need to listen to Yngwie to remind yourself of what is possible. But and
then watch him do it live while he's doing big kicks and throwing his guitar up in the air, and it's just as note for note as what it is on an album.
Mental, but it's not the sort of thing you're going to sit down and go, do you know what? I fancy just listening to a bit of Yngwie on a Sunday afternoon.
That's my point again about watching music or listening to music. And Yngwie is definitely, you watch it. Yeah, for me.
So Chris, we need to keep our eyes out then, because when we eventually do go back on the road, if we see Phil suddenly wanting to slip in to some nice leather spandexy PVC trousers, and he's coming out doing kicks and stuff. And he's saying more is more.
But the thing is, you look at the guitar players we've named, Malmsteen, Petrucci, they for me don't fall as a guitar hero.
Right.
I don't know. Whereas I think Vi, he's accomplished so much and just set new boundaries, as guitar players like Van Halen have. You know, like they seem to push boundaries, and for me, fall into that category of being guitar heroes. Not so much Malmsteen. Do you guys agree?
I guess that Malmsteen would be a guitar hero for me, because who else is doing what he's doing?
Yeah, I guess it begs the question. It opens up the question. What makes a guitar hero, really? Because I guess if you look at it from a personal point of view, everyone's heroes are going to be different. But if you're looking at it from a very general sense, do we mean that to be a hero, you have to have had a certain number of years under your belt? I.e., the heroes are the people who influenced a lot of our modern heroes, i.e., you know, maybe no further forward than the 70s and 80s? Or do you think there are still heroes, guitar heroes today, that are influencing the next generation? I know that's a big topic, and everyone's going to have their own answer. But it's interesting to think about what makes a guitar hero.
That's a really difficult question, because
there are some people that are iconic, like absolutely iconic. Obviously, people like Jimi Hendrix, but they had a relatively short career. And then you can have people who are going to be playing guitar and making records, you know, for decades and decades, and still maybe not achieve guitar hero status?
I think if you look at a real guitar hero, you're kind of looking at the people that have done it first.
Right.
You know, Clapton,
Pioneers.
Hendrix. You know, I mean, Hendrix as a player probably wouldn't stand up these days to people like Malmsteen and Vai. You know, technically as a player, but what he did first, and probably without Hendrix.
Oh,
Have I got a phone call from Alan Varnfield?
Have
who
you
is our
actually?
drummer?
Stick him in, stick him in the chat.
Put it
See if
on
you can put it to the
speaker.
mic.
Shall I do that?
Yeah, put him
on
do that.
speaker.
Hang on, see if I can do this. Al. Hang on a minute. I've got to say we're actually recording a podcast right now, and I'm going to put you on the microphone so you can actually be part of our podcast. Say hello to everybody, Al.
Hello, everybody. The star of the show has arrived.
Shut up, Al.
I'm only joking. Am I really on the microphone being recorded right now?
The next
You
podcast
are.
that goes out, Al, you are going to be on it. You're actually on the microphone now as we speak.
Is Chris and me there?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, chaps.
You can't hear them because we've got headphones on, but
Right.
Lee and Chris have just said, "Would you mind going away? You're interrupting."
What's the topic of conversation today, then, guys? Is it? Is it guitars?
Well, it's not drummers, Al.
This is like a real phone-in. This is great.
What are you guys chatting about today, then?
Well, we've just been chatting about all sorts about going back into lockdown and how it's affecting musicians, and now talking about difference between just standing on stage and playing and putting a production on and all things like that. And then we started talking. We got a bit of interference down the mic, and it was you.
That's what I'm here for, mate. You know me. Well, I won't keep you anymore then, guys. You carry on.
Okay.
And give me a call back when you can, mate. All right. And bye-bye, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all on stage again soon, I hope.
We'll get you on the chat soon enough, Al, because we're at the minute we're all in separate locations. We're doing it via Zoom, so it'd be dead easy to get you on there. So maybe
Well, there's space on the screen for him, I think. So
yeah,
space on the screen. So maybe the next 2-3 years we'll get you on it, I reckon.
Sounds good to me, mate. All right, guys. Well, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. All right.
Cheers, Al.
Bye.
Bye. Sorry about that, guys.
great.
Wrong number.
That was great. And he didn't. He managed to not say anything too controversial, which is brilliant.
I know. Well, when I answered the phone, I was expecting to go, "Hello, beep, beep, beep," with beep. I completely forgot what we were talking about now.
What were we talking about?
What makes a guitar hero a guitar hero? You're talking about Hendrix not standing up to Vi and
nowadays, but they did it first,
but
which led the way to people like Vi.
Yeah, I agree to a point, but you try and get someone to play Little Wing or something. You know, those chordal solo type approach to guitar is still very difficult to play. I think trying to get the feel that he had, I think not many guitar players can do that.
And my point exactly, he did it first, didn't he? He did that without any. I try sound like Jimi Hendrix. I try play like him on the show. He did it from where? He just did it himself, didn't he?
Exactly. It's like where does that come from? And it's amazing.
It's one. I think this is one of the really. This is one of the most unique things and one of the best things about music, isn't it? And art in general, is because there's never going to be a right answer to questions like this because it's all so personal and there is no right or wrong. Whatever you classify someone, the criteria that you use to classify someone as a guitar hero is going to be different for every person. Because I know for me, I am entirely song-based. I struggle with music. I struggle with music that's not presented to me in the format of a pleasant song that's going to stick in my mind and I'm going to really enjoy. So some of the and I think particularly with guitar playing, some of the best players fall outside of that. And that's why for me, I'm never able to digest them very easily. The people for me who are the heroes and the people for me that always will stay with me are those people who have managed to get their guitar playing within a song that sticks with me.
I think the perfect example is someone like Keith Scott, Bryan Adams. Perfect guitar playing for the songs. And great sound, great tone, just everything.
Richie Sambora did it for me in Bon Jovi. He always had great solos in their songs.
great vocalist as well. I think Bon
Yeah.
Jovi would probably, I think at times probably thought, geez, this guy is pretty good.
Yeah. Did he leave or was he pushed?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking that that most of my favorite guitar players and most of my guitar heroes, they're probably only there in my mind because of the band that they found themselves in, or because of the songs that they played on.
Mm.
I think, and that I always have to remind myself of that, because it's very easy as a guitar player to get so focused on the playing itself, but then you remind yourself that there are players like Malmsteen who are just freaks of nature in terms of technicality. But for me, and this is entirely personal, I get everyone's different. I'm never going to enjoy Malmsteen's playing more than I would Joe Walsh, because I find Joe Walsh's playing within an Eagles song, which I'm always going to enjoy. I enjoy the song more than I enjoy the guitar playing. And actually, sometimes the song glorifies the guitar playing to a point where you idolize it and you think, this is genius. How could I ever recreate this? But actually what you're doing is you're getting absorbed into the song. And the reason I know that is because for this show, I've gone away and we've looked at isolated guitar parts just to get the sounds and some of the feel right. And when you listen to the isolated guitar part on its own, you go, actually, it's great, but I understand what he's doing there. I could probably figure that out. But because it falls within the song that's so fantastic, it suddenly gets elevated to this godlike status. I mean, someone like, let's look at Angus Young. He is undoubtedly a guitar hero, the very the very definition of a guitar hero. But take his guitar playing out of AC/DC, and he's not Malmsteen. He's not, and he's also not breaking any grounds in a sort of pioneer sense. He's taking things that have been done before and obviously replicated heavily after. And if you strip away the live part of the show and the performance part of it, his guitar playing is what it is. But stick it in an AC/DC song and stick it at the right moment in that song, and all of a sudden it is the best thing ever. You can't beat the intro to Thunderstruck. You can't beat the guitar solo in Back in Black, because of
totally
everything that's around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, the songs are a big part of that. That's why I think the guitar heroes we have in the show, the mass public, I think, recognize these heroes because of the music more so than their actual playing.
Yeah,
yeah. Whereas you put like Malmsteen into the show, maybe 70 or 80% of the audience will be like, "Who's this?"
Yeah.
Just although because they don't recognise him.
They may enjoy my leather trousers, though, Chris.
This is the flip side. It's like,
And if they don't, we will.
Yeah, especially when the rip as I'm jumping off the drum riser.
Hang about, I'm stood behind you on stage. If that goes wrong, I'm seeing it all.
You won't be seeing anything ever again, I tell you.
I mean, another example of about as iconic as you can get, Slash. Okay? If absolutely 100% the definition of a guitar hero and an icon, when you consider the package as a whole, when you consider, the silhouette of the top hat, the big hair, the low slung Les Paul, his stage performance, and totally unique player, has his own thing, his own sense of rhythm and his own feel. It's Slash, that's true. But in terms of pioneering and in terms of inventing, he's not got the benefit of being alive in the 50s where things were happening for the first time, or the 60s. So he's not got that Jimi Hendrix exploding onto the scene thing. But he's also not Malmsteen, so he's not this freak of nature. How do you physically do that? But what he is he's Slash in Guns N' Roses. So the November Rain solo is always going to be the November Rain solo because of November Rain. The Sweet Child of Mine riff is always going to be the Sweet Child of Mine riff, not because it itself is any feat of technical genius or but it's that song.
It has
its
own it has its own thing going on, doesn't it? Its own identity, so much. And but at the same time, I think those solos he plays are still tough to play.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're not tough.
No, I know.
They
But
are tough.
they're not groundbreaking technically. There are a lot of guitar players who could probably play them, but they're still to a certain level. But more so, you're saying his stage presence, the top hat. Every time you think of Slash, I think of the top hat and a Les Paul.
He's an icon,
and
but I
it's
think
almost...
it's the context, isn't it? It's the context in which that guitar player is presented to you. And if it's presented to you in the format of a fantastic band or a fantastic song, then chances are that guitar player's work is going to be held up or highlighted, elevated to that godlike status.
So I've just thought of something. I've sort of thought of something here. Then I'm talking about guitar heroes. Name an out of the box guitar hero. Right. Okay. I'm going to tell you mine, and you might get an idea. Who I think is just a phenomenally technical guitar player, but I think he's got the feeling in it as well. And I think Guthrie Govan is one of the best guitar players of all time.
Prime example of what I'm probably trying to explain not very clearly. Guthrie Govan, hands down, nobody could dispute that from a guitar playing point of view, one of the finest examples that there will probably ever be. But is he a guitar hero? How many people outside of a very small... I mean, I would say there's even people within the guitar community who aren't familiar with his work, couldn't name you a single song, don't know anything. And that comes back to this thing of...
the music and the songs.
It's not been presented to people in an easily digestible format. It's not been presented to people in something that's going to become part of their life and stick with them the same way... I use Joe Walsh again, but only because we talked about I know he didn't play on Take It Easy, but an Eagles song, if you're into that, or whatever, a Zeppelin song, they're going to be with you forever. And therefore, you're constantly going to be reminded of that guitar player's work. And you could sing the guitar solo, you could hum it, you could whistle it, and it becomes part of you. Whereas for me, players like Guthrie, they're there as almost like a case study. I would flick onto iTunes and listen to it to remind myself, oh, wow, that is possible. But it's not something that's in my daily, weekly, monthly life.
I'd never listened to him, to be honest, in that way. I like watching videos of him.
Right,
He toured with Dizzy Rascal for a while. And to actually watch him play, there's a solo that he does on a fretless guitar. And it just blows your mind. You're going,
Vigère.
Yeah. It's like,
but what you said earlier, Phil, he has really good feel as well. Like it's not very kind of robotic or very kind of stale. Like he has like something organic about his approach, and it's like his vibrato. It's quite
definitely.
It's just he sounds like a 70s guitar player who has the chops of someone like Steve Vai and beyond. Maintains that feel of like Scott Gorham or someone, he is definitely something special. But it comes back to the way it's presented in a non-digestible way. The general public probably won't know who he is. But it's hard though. I think trying to find someone outside of the box who ticks all those boxes. I think it's but for me, growing up, Peter Frampton is my all-time greatest guitar player. Favorite guitar player. I grew up on vinyls like Fleetwood Mac, Rumours.
I've got
Lindsey Buckingham, great guitarist. But Frampton Comes Alive, which is if it's here, I've got it. Tons in the cupboard. I don't know. Frampton Comes Alive. Just amazing. I was using the voice box, the first time I ever heard anything like that, and just his approach as well. Can play over chord changes and stuff, but like just great songs as well. I can sing all the songs. He's a great vocalist, and for me, I think that's the thing. It's the music more than anything, and amplifies how good the guitar playing is.
We've just gone full circle, haven't we? We've just gone through all like these guitar heroes, and we've basically gone. I think the production's quite important as well, and the whole package. And it's two of my favourite concerts that I've ever seen. Again, and it's not about technical guitar playing, it's about the songs. I think top of the tree was Bryan Adams when he did the 18 Till I Die tour. Saw him in Sheffield Arena.
Wow.
He was fantastic.
What was that? Was that when they were a three-piece that era?
No. It was Keith Scott, obviously, Brian Adams.
Yeah.
What's the drummer called? Guy with curly hair.
Yeah, I know
and I think they had a keyboard player and the bass player. So I remember where he opened up with "The Only Thing That Looks Good on You Is Me," and the lights just went off, and all of a sudden there's like 10 supermodels just walking up and down the stage, and we're going, "Huh? What's going on? What's going?" And then Brian Adams comes out, and it was just fantastic. And another that sticks in my mind, again, not technical guitar playing by any means, but Status Quo. They are great live, or were great live.
Yeah. Well, that's a great example. Someone like that who they almost mocked themselves, didn't they?
Yeah.
For the simplicity, they did the search for the fourth chord and all that sort of stuff. But listen to the intros on those songs. Listen to the rhythm parts. They're simple, but they're iconic, and those songs will stick with you forever, won't they? So that is, in my mind, that is heroic guitar playing.
Yeah.
That is playing that deserves putting on that pedestal because of the songs that they went on to create.
Absolutely. When I've seen Quo 3 times now, and the last time I saw him was at the Bic in Bournemouth. It was quite a while ago, and so Rick Parfitt would have been, well, a lot older than I am now, and the guy is running up and down stage for 2 hours. It's non-stop. I mean, his guitar was battered. I'm surprised it actually worked at all, the way he was beating the hell out of that thing, And the energy was just, I mean, they had younger players. They've got it's John Rhino Edwards in it on bass, who's a lot younger than they are. And they have to keep changing the drummer because I'm sure they wear them out. It's just like full on for 2 hours.
We'll put them in a wheelchair.
Get us another drummer. But they've changed the drummer again.
The stretcher.
It's great energy.
I think actually, would you guys agree that perhaps Van Halen, the best guitar hero of all time?
All time?
Because he has the songs, broke insane boundaries with playing.
Yeah,
just played the way he wanted, and had great energy and stage presence. Had everything.
Yeah, I think he definitely has that signature sound. I think the way he played was a very natural, very feel-based approach. And like we were saying the other day, Chris, he plays things that aren't necessarily conforming to any one particular musical theory idea. He plays things that are scales that are almost he's made up. No. So they're entirely signature. Entirely unique.
I was learning the solo to jump the other day in the bit at the end. I won't play it up to speed.
It blew my mind.
But was that's the scale run. I don't even know what that is.
What is it?
It's 15, 16, 18 starting on the A string, and it goes all the way up to the high E string from there.
Perfect
that's
example.
It doesn't make any musical sense. It's completely out of key to the song.
Yeah,
but it's the way he wants to play. It's but it was a really good podcast with Joe Rogan and David Lee Roth, and they're talking about the way Van Halen constructs his solos, and I think this is what makes him very unique as well. He would do like every solo take he did was live, and he would probably do about like 10 or something like that, and then it would be a case of then composing solos from all these different takes. They would take, I'm going to take this lick up here, then I'm going to move to this take over here where it's got this little bit down fret number 1 or something, and then at the end piece it all together, and then Van Halen's like, man, I got to learn this. And they end up to be, you watch him play, and David Lee Roth describes his solos as work of gymnastics. His arms constantly up and down the fretboard because of these takes they compiled together, and I think that makes his solos sound really unique. And for me, that's one of the biggest things when I listen to Van Halen is his solos. They just sound a little out of the box. like don't conform to any musical theory, but have an energy that just works in the song and the music.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he definitely fits the bill into, well, he ticks quite a few boxes really, because he's got that pioneering thing where he obviously moved guitar tone and guitar technique along when Van Halen 1 came out, and he was doing all those modifications to his amp, his guitar, and then the technical advancements, finger tapping and things like that he brought, the heavy use of the whammy bar, all of that was very new. So there's that sort of pioneering aspect to him of bringing new things to the table. Like you say, he's got the songs, the Roth era stuff. They've got so many bangers thrown in there that have become
amazing,
iconic anthems in themselves. But then he's also got that feel thing and that unique where he didn't try to become a master of all different styles of guitar playing. And I think that was probably because he was always a band-based guitarist. I think there's a lot to be said for someone who works mainly within a band or mainly within one band, and they develop a sound together. So Eddie Van Halen is Eddie Van Halen, but he's really at his best and he's most iconic when he is held up on that platform with the band supporting him, and he's developed his sound and his style to suit his band, and it's that sound that has been kind of ingrained in us all. And so much of his sound was figured out or was literally from him, from his mind.
And that's going back to Angus again, though, isn't it? Angus Young.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys, Eddie Van Halen, Angus Young, you never saw them moonlighting with anybody else, did you?
No.
They were Eddie Van Halen is Van Halen,
Yeah,
Angus
well, he did
Young,
that.
AC/DC.
Obviously, he did the Beat It solo, but by then he'd already formed. I think so much of that is true just for those formative years.
But he's still in that, even in that environment, still takes Van Halen.
Yeah,
that moment in that Michael Jackson song is, this is now Van Halen, and it's not trying to fit into Michael Jackson's sound or anything. He just does his thing, and
because he'd already found his voice, he'd already made it, he'd already carved it out. I think you can hear that just in the first Van Halen album. So obviously it did develop from there, but he came to the table, Van Halen 1, the sound was there. Everything else from there is minor tweaks and subtle changes as he matured and the band changed, obviously, but you can see that sound had already been carved out, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and he developed all those techniques that were so personal to him. So definitely ticks the boxes pretty much across the board for
and
an
does
icon.
make a strong argument, just those tick boxes alone, to consider him as one of the greatest of all time. But again, it's down to personal opinions and people's experiences as to.
You just said it there, Chris. One of the best, greatest guitar heroes of all time. Because you get somebody that's into sort of the cleany type sound, the Albert Lee type sound, that'll go, "Oh God, that's some noise, isn't it?"
Yeah.
So they'll go, "Oh, Albert Lee's the greatest guitar hero of all time." It's like, do you pick one for a style of music? The greatest rock guitar hero of all time, maybe.
It's everything combined, isn't it? I think.
Absolutely.
No,
yeah,
that's a good point.
I guess looking at the time, this would be a good time to, maybe
to wrap up,
think about going for a coffee and
Chris probably needs a toilet break.
We got loads to chat about anyway next time, so
and we'll have to get our furry drummer in on pretty soon as well. I think not just as a phone guest.
So maybe after this podcast ends, maybe we could get everyone to maybe write in, see who their favourite guitar heroes are, and maybe why. Give us
definitely.
What everyone's thoughts are with this.
Like we said in episode 1, we really want to engage with people that listen to this, particularly now more so than ever. Now that we've headed back into a lockdown, this is all about having some social contact and filling our days with something positive and productive. So please do reach out to us. Any questions with regards to any aspect of the stuff that we've discussed, music, guitar playing, the guitar show, life in the industry, your guitar heroes, your music preferences, any anecdotes, it's all good, and it all will fuel our future podcasts. And we really like to feature some of you guys on it. So shall I do a few social plugs and then tell
Absolutely.
people where. I've got them all written down here again. So on Instagram, if you want to find us, you can find us individually. Just search for Phil Walker Guitar, Chris Anthony Guitar, and Lee Troy Guitar. And of course, the theatre show is Story of Guitar Heroes. So search Story of Guitar Heroes. On Facebook, it is Phil Walker guitarist, Lee Williams guitarist, and remind me again, Chris, because I said it wrong first time.
Chris Anthony, guitarist.
Chris Anthony guitarist. I've written it down wrong. And of course, the theatre show is Story of Guitar Heroes on Facebook. And you can go to the show website, which is storyofguitarheroes.com. Send us comments, messages, anything you can through those socials. And yeah, we'd like to feature it in future and have more of this moving forward. So,
there's YouTube as well. Did you say YouTube?
Oh, there's YouTube. Yeah.
If you search Phil Walker guitarist, there's like guitar demos and there's behind the scenes show stuff on there, and obviously that's quite interesting if you want to see visuals.
And please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. If you hit the subscribe button, then when we load a new episode up, it will just be dropped straight to you, and you can continue your listening enjoyment, or hopefully enjoyment. Hopefully it went okay. Do we think?
I don't
chaps?
mind it, actually. I think I might stick to this, and then I don't have to hand out my rich teas.
On that note, I'm going to get the kettle on, and I'll see you guys next time.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lee, if you're listening to this, you will be listening to this, won't you? The software is running. I'm taking my trousers off now.